This is a big one for me. An entire generation that has absolutely no positive outlook for the future. That is a massive problem to me. In fact, this video is going to talk about that. It's called the Lost Hope Generation. This is way worse than a recession. I absolutely agree. This is from Lee. Very simple. Let's give him a like already. It's a small channel, it seems like. 23 subscribers, but I think it's going to be good. So give it a chance. Go subscribe to this person. Let's have a look.
What's worse than a possible recession looming our way is if people have lost hope, patience, and faith to the future.
Wiping out $4 trillion in market value from the S&P 500.
The S&P 500 had its biggest one-day drop.
The chance of recession is higher than most people believe.
Many experts believe the U.S. could enter a recession this year.
If a recession does happen, say if the stock market suffers a 50% loss, along with the housing prices, hopefully, most people, particularly young people, will only celebrate. They will not shed a tear because there is literally nothing for them to cry for. Since the overwhelming majority of people under 35 do not own a home and do not have much in savings anyway, everyone deep in their hearts is waiting for the end of the world.
I agree with that.
So. The most dangerous thing
the faster the better at this point.
About a generation of young people lost hope to the future is a recession once in a while is relatively easier to deal with. The worst case scenario is you can just give people some stimulus checks so they can go out and buy some designer shoes. But a Great Depression of lost hope of an entire generation will not only create more and more frequent economic shocks, but will also trigger something that's much more sticky, something that is much more everlasting.
On the first day of 1990, doubt crept into the markets. Investors grew nervous and the bubble finally burst. Stock prices tumbled. Over the next 2.5 years, Japan's once mighty stock market lost 63% of its value, and Japan entered an era of uncertainty and decline.
After the burst of the 1990s bubble in Japan, people lost jobs, people lost homes, the newly graduated students at the time couldn't find jobs. People had to sell properties, high-end golf equipment. Japanese women at the time went from requiring the 3 highs to the 3 lows. Today, the Japanese people seem to be doing okay. High school and college graduates have a more than 99% employment rate. Rent is low and the quality of everything is high, except for the generation that went through the bubble burst. Many of them still can't find proper jobs, so they rely on part-time gigs like delivering Uber Eats for people who are 30 years younger than them. Many of them still don't have their own places, and many of them remain single and childless well into their 50s, even 60s. They were essentially the sacrificed generation. Sacrificed by the system, sacrificed by the ups and downs of what we call the economic cycles. And when the economy began to stabilize again, a newer generation of workers emerged to compete with them. And of course, most of them couldn't compete with someone who is 10 to 15 years younger, who is willing to get paid much less. So even to today, the lost generation of the golden age of Japan is still too young to retire and too old to be hired. As stabilities and opportunities decrease, whoever has the option to leave in pursuit of a brighter tomorrow will leave, either from their birth city or even birth country. This often applies first to the more talented and ambitious individuals, aka the last group of people you want to lose, because these are the group of people who is willing to work for peanuts day and night in an attempt to gamble for a great future. But if even they can't see a future for themselves, whether a career or the possibility of owning their own home, or even romantically, they will switch to a place where they can.
I think I found my life. I'm not gonna lie.
And what happens to a society when it loses stabilities, opportunities, and talented and ambitious individuals? Take a look with what has happened to the UK and Canada in the last decade. It's easier to get stopped on the street of UK than getting a doctor's appointment in Canada. Now, losing hope to the collective doesn't equal to losing hope as an individual. In fact, losing hope as an individual is actually pretty difficult to do. So what is the solution? What is the solution for someone who has lost faith and expectations to the current structure of things, but still have dreams and hopes, perhaps even ambitions? The best solution is also the timeless human strategy, is to change your environment. This could mean anywhere from cleaning the place of where you live to move to a different apartment, different city, state, and even a different country. Humans are...
The difficulty with this right now is that if a lot of the West is falling apart, where do you go? Like, the options become limited, right? And this is, I don't want to sound totally doomcore here, but there's still places you can make it, and you can make a decent living. You can get ahead in some sense, even if it's less than before. But this is the thing, like, everyone is looking for a place with some hope, or their own place, or some form of a future where they feel like they're working towards something which might reward them. And when everything feels like it's getting worse over time, then your motivation to keep going, or the incentive, gets destroyed, right? There's no incentive. And when there's no incentive to keep going, what do you have? You have what happens here. A lost generation, completely apathetic, no need, no reason to keep going. That is a complete failed society. But let's hear if he has any other suggestions here. I would agree otherwise. Changing your environment is a great idea sometimes,
environmentally
if you
wired.
can.
It is both a gift and a curse, meaning if the current environment is too harsh for us to live in, the most logical thing to do would be try to fix the current environment, try to fix the current system.
Yeah.
But if that's not possible, we leave. But here's something that should be reminded of, is if the environment isn't bad enough yet, for example, as long as you spend every last penny you make, you can still survive, although the price of everything is still going up every single day, the environment is still somewhat livable. So you don't yet feel the need to change, so you don't change your environment, you just wait for things to get better. I would seriously argue this is a boiling frog situation that is much more dangerous than you may think, because you are literally getting cooked while you don't even notice it's happening.
The thing is, I notice these things are happening, but it's very limited as to where you can go. Consider me, for example. I can't go. Well, I speak English, right? So where am I supposed to go? I do speak Danish as well, but there's issues here with the finding the options of what to do. That's the issue. But I totally agree with him. Just sitting around and waiting for things is terrible, because you will eventually also just lose hope there, because you're gambling for a future you have little control in, or next to no control in. It's difficult.
The purpose of this entire video is just to remind some people, some young people who are in this seemingly comfortable boiling frog situation while damning their own future selves unknowingly. Dude, run. Recently, I got this YouTube comment from a video I did a while back, focused on a Japanese TV show about an ambitious young lady moving from the rural side of Japan to the absolute center of Japan, Tokyo, dreaming to make something of herself. And someone who I hope had subscribed commented, "I like your video. I can feel her. I have lived in a small village until now, and this entire time I dream of becoming a decent model who lives in those popular cities. But I know that will never come, so I just kept daydreaming about the dream and hate of this place where I currently live." Now, just so happens I myself expecting to move to Tokyo soon, and I'm a Chinese guy living in America, so I know a thing or two about moving and living abroad. So I replied, "I'd argue that never is a strong word to use here. Moving to Tokyo and starting a life there can actually cost a lot less than most people may think. In fact, if you compare the cost of living in New York City and Tokyo, Tokyo is significantly more affordable and more fun. If you do more research on this, you may find it easier and more possible than you think."
Yeah, so I agree. There's definitely, if there's a will, there's a way in some sense. And this doesn't apply to everyone. It really depends on your visa, your passport, things like this. But considering that lady was from Japan anyways, obviously the ability to move to Tokyo is there, visa-wise. But imagine you're coming from out of the country, trying to get into Japan, which is a notoriously difficult place to move to in some sense, bureaucracy-wise, as far as I understand. And there's also culture differences and people who never feel like they fit in, or you don't know the language, or it takes too long to learn the language, or people just see you different. And I generally have this idea that because the world is so chaotic in today, like we can't just keep moving people around if the environment is bad, if the environment everywhere is getting worse, or everywhere. Yes, you can find places that are better for you, perhaps, just like I did, right? But overall, we do, as he says, we do need to find a way eventually to fix the place you're in, so that people don't have this chaotic thing of everyone's moving everywhere and moving everything, and it's not sustainable, in my opinion. But he's right. If you cannot fix the current situation you're in, or it might take too long to get there, you got to change your environment, whether it's the same country, if that's all you have availability for, or another country. But again, that's also a privilege. Like, some people don't have the passport rights to even try that. So it's a difficult one. Obviously, handling the situation you're in at the moment is a way better option, if possible.
My point is, if someone has lost hope and expectations to the future of the current momentum of things, of the current system, of the current structure, the best thing for them to do is actually just to move to a new environment, somewhere that offers more in short to medium term future, while keeping the old place as a backup. You always want a backup. If you're interested in more different ideas, foreign inspirations, and more importantly, international experiences and strategies, allow me to introduce 10 Ancient Wisdoms from Ancient China, a cultural guide for the worldly mind. It's an ebook I have accumulated from my personal inspirations, traveling and living abroad experiences.
That's cool.
It also comes with a small gift. Both will help you tremendously to explore international ideas and options. Link in description. To finish this video, I must emphasize again that the world will be fine. The future will be fine. It's just this generation of people have been purposely sacrificed and ruined. And it's not any of this generation's fault. So it is literally everybody else's fault, which is kind of ironic. But this is the situation we're in, so save yourself while you can.
That's a decent ending. Look at that. I mean, there's not going to be many comments here because, I mean, it's a small channel, but so is mine, but whatever. It's I like it. I like it. It's, what do you do here, you know? At the moment, I feel like people have lost hope in the entire world as an entirety. So where do we go? That's why we need Elon to go to Mars, right? So we can just skip the planet entirely. No, I'm kidding. I think there are still options for you to find better life. It really depends on your circumstances and where you live and where you can go. But overall, I think the scary thing is just in general that there is a generation that has lost hope. That's very difficult to watch, honestly. Do I know what the solution is? Hell no. Does Lee here? Probably not, but he has a good suggestion. If you feel like you're absolutely not working out where you are, move. A lot of Americans do it, I know. And a lot of people in many other countries too. Where do you live, man? Have you lost hope as well? Or you think the future is rosy and flower petals falling all over you? What do you think's happening? Is it sunshine and rainbows for you or not? Let me know. What would you do? In a certain situation, can you move?